user, I think almost 10 years now, and probably knows the app the best. And today he will go deep into like variables and parameters and how to use them to its maximum. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask it on the chat, or write us or whatever. Like we are here, we're happy to answer your questions. And if you have questions, we can bring it to class as well, and he can answer your modeling questions at the end. But like the way that it will look like is that we will model for like 30-40 minutes, and then if there are any questions that arise, we will jump into that Q&A section. And that's how this next hour will look like. And class, I think you can start the modeling.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, share the screen. And there we are. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Very good. Perfect. So today's topic, as Danielle mentioned, is variables. They are really very useful. As think about this as dimensions you can globally define, and then you can use variables in sketches and modeling features. So that means you can drive multiple design steps just by controlling that via one variable. The assignment or demonstration here we prepared is essentially showing you how in real life such a variable can be applied to. Now you see here is a nice trolley with a deck on top, but these are multiple design steps. For example, the wheels, the handlebar, and then we will focus a lot on how to design the piping. And what you see here, these are, for example, variables. Now you can define dimension of the square stock, the thickness of the square stock, fillets, or whatever you want to use them for. And I will show you how we can create variables and edit variables and also assign variables. As you can see here, I have, just as a quick overview, I have multiple building blocks, a nice R pin, which we will insert to the handlebar. And then here we have also our wheels. And here is kind of like the platform. Platform that basically, that file is where we are going to create the square stock to be in construction to attach everything to. So with that said, let me actually start first here. So I run you through the whole process, how I would approach modeling this. So to show you how different ways you could work with variables. Since we talked a lot about variables, you can actually add them, for example, here when you click on them. And then variables can be used for a length or an angle or just simply a number. You can give them a unique name and then a value. When, for example, you work with length, the value you enter here is also connected to the unit system, or sorry, the units you're using in your design. So currently I use millimeter. If I would type in 20, that means 20 millimeters. So that's like one way how you can create them. And if I now go to the sketch, I have to block out, for example, the amount of pipes I need. I know I need one pipe there, one pipe there. I sketch them in very loosely, as you can see. There and there and there. Ideally, here all these lines should be perpendicular or horizontal, so they have a coincidence. So I can select these lines, make them vertical, horizontal, so they can rotate. And these two, they should have a width of 50 millimeters. Now, here we can type in 50, press enter. And then I can say here, okay, there, 50 and I press enter. I will, for demonstration purpose, show on all the dimensions so you can see them. And then I could go to here and say 50. It's not too complicated, but you might imagine what happens now if you have to change it to 60 or you have to change it to 40. Now I would have to go back to all these 4 dimensions and edit them again. No? That can work, can also be a lot of extra work. I realized even here I made a little mistake. I need to add actually these pipes here first for the outside. Then I put them back in, and there I will select all these lines one more time to make sure they're all vertical. And for demonstration purpose, I'm going to remove these dimensions because now I'm going to show you how the 2 ways now we can create them. So I showed you before that if I know I'm going to work with 50 millimeters for the width of the square stock, I can just create this. And now I should give this a name. Now, length 1 is not really very descriptive. So I could say pipe width, for example. It's good to use very easy to understand names, particularly when you also work with a team. That's really important. So decide kind of like on like a common way how to name objects. You could also say PW, then it's really nice and short, but then you have to imagine that PW stands for pipe width, for example. Okay, and then here I could type in 50. Very good. And you see that variable now here was created at the beginning of my timeline. That's very important to understand this, why it's on top, because all following steps can actually link to that variable. And if I now go ahead and select these 2 lines, you see here, there is a small X and a plus. And if I click on it, I could from here now create a new variable. Since we are just talked about creating variables, you see now how this worked. I can then go ahead, right click and say rename this. I don't really need this because I just created this first manually. Let me go back to here one more time. And then here, this is already created. So I can select it and press enter. Let's go to these 2. So I have to assign the variables. Very good. These 2. And these 2. Those here too. Press enter, and then we can do the same here. Okay, so this covered kind of like the 2 ways how you can create variables. Now, while you sketch or 3D model, you can create it, or you just do this at the beginning. So the nice thing is, you see that all these dimensions, they have like an fx. That means this dimension gets the value for that dimension from a variable. And now here, if I change this, for example, to 60, you see how everything updates. So I only adjust this variable one time, and then all these parts update automatically. So you can assume that's really a huge time saver. Because this sketch should be translated into where square stock is being placed, let's go into 3D modeling. I will select all these sketch profiles, and then I can extrude them up. we can type in 50, but because we already have the pipe width, or we could also say pipe diameter, I can also assign the same variable now to the modeling feature. Press enter. I would show the sketch here one more time. And just to demonstrate how this works, if I change the variable, the sketch updates, but also the modeling feature updates. So again, this is going to be really a nice and huge time saver. I can update this, and there's a correct dimension. Perfect. Cool. Now I would like at one point to also fillet these edges and also turn this block into something that represents extruded steel square tubing. I will hide this for a moment. These two I will hide. Actually, hold on. Sorry, I made a mistake. I will go ahead and select all these edges. Thank you. And then I select these edges. And then here, that fillet, I would like to be 6 millimeters. And here now I will just create the length from here. So it's entered. And I will rename this and call this pipe fillet. You can always rename variables afterwards to make this easier to understand. So it doesn't really matter. Very good. That's all set. And now I will go ahead, select all these faces. And there, and there, and there, there. Very good. And I will shell this. I will drag this down a little bit to 3 millimeters. And then because I have all these faces selected, I will create a new variable. There we are. It copied over also the dimension. And let's say this is pipe material thickness. I'm writing this on purpose pretty long also, so you understand if you have names which are too long, try to keep the names nice and short in general. And here we just only entered the kind of like a value. What we can do also, I will change this name here for a moment so the interface adjusts a little bit. And what we can do now here is something quite fun. We can, for example, say this should be the pipe fillet dimension, but I want to have half of that value, so divided by 2. So I'm writing actually an expression. If I now change this to 8, you see how this one updates. So you see also you can link variables to each other. You can add something to it, you can subtract, you can multiply them. So you can write very basic expressions or small mathematical equations. Very good. So you see, you see that with this, it was very easy to literally block out this design, bring everything in. We have established kind of like the steel frame where the pipes are at the moment, but now we have also these front and the back wheels. Left and right, we would like to perfectly position them. So we are going to import them into our platform design. For that, we can then use the import project command, which is new. And that basically allows you to insert an existing file you have inside Shaper 3D. So I will bring in the wheel stationary left. Also there I gave this a good name, left, so I know what side this also belongs to. And here is my folder. You see I structured everything nicely. So the project file, the bracket, which is on top, the sketch and these other parts, and some of the screws, which are necessary. The sketch here I will hide for a moment, because what I will do now is align this one really quite and nice to the design. So I can select everything. Then we'll select the align command, select the top face, and then I select here this bottom face. One problem, however, we might run into this is I can't perfectly snap this here to this top edge. That
Hey,
is.
class, you don't share your screen now.
Oh, how does this happen?
I don't know.
1 second. I do not know what triggered this. Entire screen. Do you see this again?
Yes.
Okay, what was the last thing you guys saw?
I wouldn't like. I think it happened in the past 30 seconds.
So were people able to see how I imported this file? I
I
could
think
just
it's
easily.
better if you show it again.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm so sorry for this. I don't know why this happened. Actually, my headset also turned the power off. Maybe that was related to it. So sorry for this technical issue. To restart, we now would like to bring in the wheels we have. And as you can see, I have a stationary front left and a swivel back left wheel. And in the new version of Shaper, we can use the file command to import this. And I am just importing this right now. And there it is. Danny, you can still see everything?
Yes.
Okay, good. So as I mentioned, I have these files also really well structured. So when I import them, my items lister is well structured. So I have this project for the wheel stationary, a bracket that is just the top part. It's a mounting plate, the sketch for it. And then I have a folder with the parts and the screws. These are kind of like standard pieces you might buy anyway, so you can download them. But the bracket has to be custom made to make this fit actually under this construction. And there you can see also here, this bracket is 170 millimeters wide. So I would like now to position this whole piece right under the metal frame. So I can select everything. Select the align command. Then I select, in this case here, the top face of the bracket because it's nice and flat. That's also what will be flush under the steel pipe. I click the surface. I can move this to this front edge because I have right here a nice sharp edge. It snaps to it. This is actually really nice. You see how it snaps to it. My only problem is if I go back, you see how this snaps to this edge at this point. But I also know, so fillet is 6 millimeters. So I could say this -6. Okay, that was the incorrect math. So that should have been +6. And then it adjusts to it. One possibility could also be to hide, for example, or suppress, I mean, the fillet command. Then you have sharp edges and you position it, and then you can do that. Now I can just do this, for example, hide this one there. And I will now bring in the back wheel. There we are. Very good. So I will just hide the sketch. I'm hiding the sketch because I'm not moving the sketch. I just want to move the body part. Then you see how everything perfectly aligns. All good. And then here I can just suppress this one. Perfect. Beautiful. Cool. Okay. Now, if I go to the top view, or actually on the bottom view, it's even easier to see. Now there's a huge alignment issue. And if I turn on the sketches for my wheels, there you can see that the bracket for each is 170 millimeters wide. That means when I go to the sketch and I will isolate it, so it's just easier to take a look at, then I can select this line, I can select the outer line, and that dimension, that should be 170. And I will turn this into a variable again. And I have this here, and I will rename this into bracket width. Because then this way I can select these two lines, and there is the dimension. I will select bracket width, press enter. Beautiful. Move this up. And if I now unisolate everything, so I show everything, there you can see how these brackets perfectly are right snug under it. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you see here you have these 170 also, 170 here from the bracket and these values. And I imported the files. You see that the variables for these files were inserted later because these then apply to the modeling steps that are following. These do not apply for the variables I created for the metal frame. So think about like first step, second step, third step, and there is kind of like a timeline if you want to think about it. I cannot with later variables adjust a sketch or modeling feature that happened time-wise before. But if you work with multiple files individually and you bring them then together, what you then could also create is create then a new variable. And then a variable I created here could then be inserted and drive a variable that was created later. Just to answer that question. So these wheels, I could very easily mirror over. I only need to bring them once. And if I go to visualization mode, now you see this starts to look really quite nice. When I select this hole diameter, this tells me this is 14 millimeters. This is something that kind of like was created in these files. Now I need to think about also, so if I put a screw through there that has 40 millimeters, I would have to drill through these square stocks. I could, in this case, create something. You see here, I have these screw holes specified. If I go back to one of these designs actually here and take a look at this sketch and isolate it. Now there you see the dimension. Here are all the holes for mounting the wheel, and then these are the holes for mounting the bracket with the wheels under the metal frame. And this is the dimension I use for that. So one very easy way now to create these holes would be I put all this into a new folder just to make this nice and clean. I call this frame. The sketch I will put into there too. All those I could put into a new folder and call that one bodies or body. So it's very easy to turn everything on and off. And from these parts, you see now that I have these plates. I could, this is really based on how you want to work. I do this now really at the end. Now I built the frame, I inserted the wheels, and now I'm cutting the holes into the frame. And that basically means I have the ability to create a sketch, and this plate is somewhat there. So I will go back to have these pieces isolated. I can select one if I want to, or I could also just create a new sketch on this plate, and then I will use the project command, and I can select these faces there, project them into the sketch. Thank you. And if I now hide all this, you see I have the outline of the brackets projected in. I can clean this up a little bit. I will remove just all these outside edges because honestly, all I want is just where these holes are. Then I can select these holes. And here it comes now. I show my frame. Then I did something wrong because I just selected edges. I didn't want to select just the faces because then it triggers the extrude command, show the frame, extrude this one up. And there it cut all these holes through it. So if I now show everything and go to the top or bottom, no? So you see the openings are perfectly created, and now I could go ahead and put the screws in. Any question about this so far? Danny, I saw some people texted something in Slack.
Nothing related to the modeling so far.
Okay, very good. One thing I would like to stress now, so this modeling is based on the geometry of the brackets I included. And the brackets we brought in were also informed by the variables. So if I go ahead and change this, you see how there everything updated because I changed the hole on the bracket, and then that changed the hole of, well, basically the diameter of the holes we drilled through those metal parts. So this is actually really quite nice. How you can work with multiple parts. You just have to be careful about how do you plan doing which steps. Because I built these wheels first, including the bracket, I'm then creating the holes later. I mean, technically speaking, I could also have built these wheel parts with a metal bracket, but minus holes, and then place the holes, those here, manually afterwards. But I found this actually was much nicer to do. And also gave me an ability to show you how we can nest these modeling steps. I will simply hide these sketches so they're out of our way. Now, we could now go ahead and insert our next part. So we'll go to import. I would like to have the handlebar inserted and also the arc clip. I could do this all in this file, but because this should actually go to there, and I built them on purpose as individual files to show you how we can change something. So I have a very simple path, then a diameter, and then this diameter I sweep across. And I do not really have yet also a variable assigned there. So let's actually bring this into this file first. And then when we save this, we bring that into that file. So I will go ahead, import that part. And it is actually, there's a piece that got inserted. Sorry. And this body, so that one, that no, I would like to position somewhere there. So I have one there. I could go ahead and say from this, remove that one. But I need this also on the other side. So I will use the right commands and mirror this over. There it is. And then from this tube, I will remove the geometry of those two bodies, but keep the removed body because I want to maintain having those elements. There we are. There's a little, maybe a little bit too much space. This could wiggle left and right a little bit. So when I go ahead and move this a little bit closer, there it's also moved because after I moved it, I mirrored it over. And what is really quite nice is not, so this is the diameter. If I change this, you see then how the pin actually adjusts, and then that changes the hole for this. If you only have a solid model, so minus a sketch, you could probably also select the surface and then grow and shrink it. Works in a similar way. And if I select this here one more time and adjust this, you see this then creates now a new face offset. I change this to 8 millimeters for the diameter. I could, technically speaking, create a variable and say our pin diameter, say, oh, no, pin. Actually, I just write pin width. I had a minus in there, and that's not allowed for the name. So I'm glad actually I made that mistake. And say simply 5. And then here I will just add this to it. And you see now this was changed back to exactly 5 millimeters, while my initial sketch here was 4 millimeters. And also there, if I want to, I could change this to 5 later if I want, but then I wouldn't really need to do this face offset. This was more to show you how even with solid models, you can drive them. So this piece, if we now exit the file, you see in the handlebar, we have everything inserted. And if I go to the platform, now we can insert that part there. And that should be positioned here. So I will hide actually all the sketches. So they're gone. Very good. So this one I would like to align. Then I modeled this already to fit. So also for presentation
Sorry,
purpose, that all.
you don't
Yeah.
share your screen again.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Thank you for telling me. What was the last thing you saw?
Again, like 30 seconds behind. It's hard to tell.
Okay. Okay, 1 second. I think I have to delete this one up. I don't know what actually caused this. So
I'll just let you know when it happens.
yeah, it's all good. All good. So I hope people were able to see. I think now I put in the needle. I cut the holes. So everything now here was assembled, and then this file, which is kind of like a unit on its own. That's the reason why I brought the pin into there. And then when we go back to the dashboard, that's saved. And I can then go to our platform file and import that tiny assembly into this bigger assembly. Hold on, do I have like 2 duplicates here? Oh, this is an old file. That's from the previous import. Very good. So I will hide here my sketches for the moment, so I do not select them. And then when I select the bodies, go to align, I will select this plate and map it to here. The plate has also the same height of the pipe. You see there is also a center point. So when I click just anywhere on this face, it centers it by default. So I know along X and Y or Z, based on what you consider being the up vector, it's perfectly positioned. I do have the screws here inserted. So as a following step, I could select my square stock, select the pipes, and then use the geometry of these pipe cylinders. They're just representing where a screw would be. And the screws are custom made. I mean, not custom made, they are mass produced. So we can represent them basically just with a cylinder for the opening and then use them to cut these openings. And then there is the hole. Very good. When I go back to our first step, oh, sorry, that actually was the incorrect command. So I wanted to hide all those, hide this and there. This is the width of our basket. I will create a command with this. Let's say box width or basket. And here I will create a width, and that will be box length. That's essentially describing how long this rectangular piece will be. And At the end of the timeline, I will now, on top of here, now create a new element that we're going to put on top. So I can select a face. I could also offset the sketch by the pipe diameter, so 50 millimeters. It's really up to you how you would like to do this. So I will, in this case, show you this can go up by the height of our pipe diameter. Thank you. There. And here I will create a new sketch. There's a rectangle from center point, and then I will select the box length and the box width. There we are. And you see now it perfectly fits above each other. I'm just creating a very small, quick idea of some sort of a sheet metal folded, or any other type of small compartments we can put on top. I will pre-round this first and then shell this. I can use exactly the same commands here. The fillet command, I just forgot about it, that I already predefined this command. There it is, I use it. So all is nice and consistent. When I show the frame, you see how this fits on top. And there we are. What we do not have in this box right now is the amount for the holes. So this command where we did cut the pipes, which I have here. So I do this at the end. We can move this to the bottom. Oh, it selects the wrong one. There. Very good. And I have multiple objects here being cut. Subtract from bodies, edit, and I will now add this body to it. So you see now we also cut through this basket we put on top. Just this as a nice demo to show you also how you can sort time-wise, when do you do which step, and you can resort them instead of having to cut, for example, this box one more time. To make this nice and beautiful, now we can add materials to it. I have here this anodized orange material. I will add this to here. Let's say the inside will be a nice metallic, see the diamond plate, but the pattern we see right now is very tiny. To make this visually just easier to read, we can scale this up a little bit. This has a default material. We use primarily steel, so the default material for these tubes will be steel extruded. So the brush steel I have, I simply drag onto the default material that is representing only those square tubes I created. Then the material is also updated. The last task in this process then basically would be creating the correct representation for the tubes, for the screws, and putting them into all those individual holes which are open. And with this, we somewhat are reaching the end of today's demonstration, how you can work with variables in various ways to explore design, how to drive a design, or in this case, even how to drive a design with multiple parts which were imported into a Shaper 3D file.
Great, thank you. I think let's wait for like a minute or so
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
see if there are any questions. In the meantime, just like feel free to like model whatever you want. Uh, this is your time to shine. And yeah, let's wait a few minutes for questions.
Since the model is done, let's render it. That's also a really nice addition, the generative rendering. So you can render your object with realistic materials, but also inside an environment. Oh, look at this. This is awesome. This looks really good.
Have you tried the new sweep parameters that came out this week?
Yeah, I looked into them. They're great. And we can do twisting, which is really nice.
Yeah. Great. It seems there's no questions coming, so I think we can just end it. And thanks for everyone for watching. Um, Feel free to ask questions in the comments. We will still be looking at those and happy to answer.